Hey, courageous school leaders. Welcome to Lead Beyond Limits, the space where school leaders like you gain unfiltered insights from educators, uncover the hidden barriers holding your staff back, and get practical strategies to lead with confidence. If you're ready to tackle the real challenges in your schools and create the clarity your team needs to thrive, you're in the right place. Let's dive in and get to work.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Those who are watching the replay, good evening. It is Monday, January 13th already. We are 13 days into the new year. Happy New Year again, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Dr. Demia Thomas, and I have the pleasure today to be talking to Miss Latoya Parker, who is a phenomenal teacher, veteran teacher, and we're going to have a great conversation with her today. For those of you who are watching this is Lead Beyond Limits, and I'm so glad that you are here today to either join in or watch the replay. Please feel free to make your comments. I'm looking both at Instagram and also on LinkedIn for comments. So if you have any comments, you want to join in the conversation or have a question, please feel free to post it and I will share the comment or question. So this is a safe space. This is a space where we actually have different roles in the school system, in the school building, and specifically the public school system, because we know that is a different, requires a different muscle than a private school, right? And so we have different roles in the public school system. And today we're going to speak to Ms. Parker to hear about her journey as a leader and just to hear her insights, because she, just so you know, I've worked with Ms. Parker before. We've worked together at Hartford Heights Elementary School and then at the all-girls school as well. And when in opening the all-girls school, I deliberately sought Ms. Parker out because she's such a phenomenal teacher and has a true love for kids and a connection with kids and students and colleagues as well. She has this amazing ability to connect with all people in the building. And so I'm so pleased to welcome her. Everybody welcome Ms. Parker to the show. Ms. Parker, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey as a teacher.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm honored. So I'm Ms. Parker. This is my 19th year in education. Ooh, still feels crazy to say that. I started off as a kindergarten teacher at an elementary school. I taught kindergarten for about 6 years. Then I went on to first grade. I think I've taught every grade in elementary except for maybe pre-K, third and fourth. I moved to fifth grade one year, that was a shell shock to me. I was asked a couple of weeks before summer break was ending. And like, we really need you upstairs. And I was like, I don't know about teaching fifth grade, but I'm glad that I did that because that helped me step into middle school. So currently I teach at a middle school. I teach an all-girl population. And this year I'm teaching sixth grade math and seventh grade ELA. So I really enjoy what I do. Over the last few years, I've been moving more into teaching with the hip hop education lens. So we do a lot of music and things, especially in ELA, because it just makes it's just an easy transition. So, we do a lot of hip hop type things in my classroom. So, and I still, 19 years later, I love
You're still doing it. Yes, I love it. So can you share with us what was the moment in education for you where you were like, yes, this is what I want to do. This is where I belong. Like I have found, like, this is it. What was the moment in education for you?
Oh, wow. I think, just a little backstory. Originally, I knew I wanted to do something with children because I'm an Army brat. So I was always, watching people's children, whether it was for military balls or things of that nature or just kids in the neighborhood. And I had this moment one time where I wanted to be a pediatrician, but then I found I was a little too squeamish for that. So, that career left me very quickly. I was like, oh, I got still, nope, nope, that's not me. But I remember being probably about 17 or 18, and it was my first trimester at my college at Coppin State, and I was in a grocery store, and I walked past like a child in the in the shopping cart, and they like when I walked past, they like reached up to me, and I was like, okay. It's like I just thought it was odd, But I know little kids, sometimes they reach for strangers. And then I went a couple of aisles over, and there was another kid in the buggy, and they did the same exact thing, and it like kind of gave me like a jarring moment. I was like, okay, that's a sign. I don't think things happen, just by chance. I was like,
That's
that
right.
tells me that I need to be doing something with children. So, that was my first, semester into Coppin, and really just stepping foot into the classroom setting when I started doing, my practicum and student teaching and things. I just love the hustle and bustle and, things you think is going to be the same every day. And, you think it's going to be one way and it transitions to another. So I just like that kind of flexibility and, kind of unscheduled chaos, if you will.
Yeah. I love how you put that, unscheduled chaos. And I mean, I love how you, like in your description, it sounds like you're so, aware, and that shows, high emotional intelligence, being aware of the things that are calling you, being aware of the signs, right? And knowing that, this is where you need to be. So I commend you on having that insight and foresight so early in your career. And so once you got into teaching, and shout out to the HBCUs, right? Coppin University.
Yes.
When you got into the classroom, was there any one particular experience that affirmed for you, like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life?
I think for me, I share the sentiment that one of my mentors, Dr. Christopher Emden, talked about, is that moment when kids have this like, oh, now I get it type idea. So you're teaching something. Sometimes you don't know if they're picking up what you're putting down. I'm like, okay, and then I'm teaching a lesson to the kids. I think it was with math, which. One, I never thought I would be teaching math outside of kindergarten, doing very simple math. And I'm here teaching sixth grade middle school math. So I'm like, oh, but, teaching them a math skill and having them go like, oh, I get it now, especially if it's a scholar that, had some struggles to get to that concept.
Yeah.
So I think that there's nothing like, it still gives me chills, and it's like music to my ears. So I love hearing that moment, or having scholars come back and, say that they understood it, or that they like the way that I explained something so that they can pick up.
Yeah, I love that. It was pretty much the same for me too as a teacher. I started way back, but
not too far back, yeah.
Pretty much the same thing. You just feel this warmth, like, oh my God, they're understanding, they're getting it. So I definitely understand that. So can you share with us, what are the most significant challenges right now that you are facing in supporting your students or your scholars?
Oh, I think the one that, most teachers always talk about is time, just that time to plan, time to grade, time to, like I said, I teach from a hip hop lens. So having the time to sit and look at the connections between what I'm teaching, for instance, right now I'm teaching about the Harlem Renaissance. So, and I want them to transition into doing a Baltimore Renaissance. So having the time to look up those things and make connections between the old and the new, because a lot of people don't understand how much work we do outside of actual work. And it's unpaid labor. So I think that's one of the biggest things. And then the second is always, access to resources. So having the funds to, purchase things for your classroom. Teachers spend a lot of their own hard-earned money for, in support of their students. So whether it's buying glue or, trying to get them to go to a certain trip to connect to your curriculum. So those are probably the two biggest things for me, is just the time, because I'm always like, where can I squeeze in more time to do these things?
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. So I love the fact that you are tying in content that is really relevant to our kids, right? This idea of the hip hop, right? So how, because we know every school has curriculum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of schools and districts are, you have to follow the curriculum. This is what it is. It sounds like you have some flexibility in that, right? Could you share that kind of flexibility and what that leadership is for you to be flexible in that way?
Right. Well, first, my leaders are really supportive with, the things that I do in my classroom. I'm one of the things is, I know it's advantageous is that I'm a veteran. So I've been teaching for a long time, and I've been a good teacher for a long time. So they kind of just let me do my thing, in the room. I do still connect it to our curriculum, but do I stray in some areas? Do I I always think about what is going to be in best interest of the kids. So, I ask them, I do a lot of surveys, we do a lot of circles. So they kind of just let me be free. So I make connections. For example, I do Freestyle Fridays with my kids. So I use vocabulary for their
love vocabulary.
Yeah, I love me some vocabulary. Oh my goodness. So we get a set of 15 words. We study and learn about them over 2 weeks. And I do things like create bingo games. We do charades. And a lot of the girls actually use the vocabulary in their freestyles. We call it freestyle right now because it's still kind of new. They're getting to write their rhymes. But as we get to the spring, I told them, hey, by April, we're just going to get up and, stand in a circle and do a cipher. So it's letting them be creative instead of me giving them a boring journal prompt that they may not be able to connect to or want to write about. We do a freestyle, so you can choose whatever you want to talk about.
Right.
They get bonuses, or I'll shout them out if they use some of the vocabulary words, or a lot of them will make a rhyme about the content that we learned this week. So if we're looking at the play Shuffle Along right now for Harlem Renaissance. So to hear them really spit back the information that they learned and
they're getting it. Yes.
Yeah. So
that's the light bulb.
Yeah. And so they're getting that creative, they're getting that time to be creative, but also still being content connected. So I love that.
Yep. So I know you, Parker, right? Like we've been together since a very long time. So I know you, and I know you're a person who likes to follow the rules, but you will also push the envelope where you see needed, right? Like if you feel like it's going to benefit your students, you're definitely going to push the envelope. Can you share with us in terms of the connection with leadership right now, right? Like when those moments, like how does the leadership support you? Because I know you said leadership knows that you're a veteran teacher, right? But you still, because I know you will go to the leader and say, listen, I have this idea for X, Y, and Z. Can you share with us what that sounds like, what it feels like for you, and why it's so important for leaders to allow for this type of autonomy in their buildings?
Right. So I think that one of the things that is helpful is that you trust your staff. My leaders, know who I am, and they know that I'm always leading with the students in mind. So I'm not trying to, have my own personal agenda.
Right.
I listen. One of the things that, starts in my room. So, I make my room, I build relationships with my scholars and let them know that this is a safe space. So they will come to me with information sometimes when I don't necessarily want it. So they will come to me like, hey, Ms. Parker, why do we have to do this certain thing? Can we do it this way? Or can we do it that way? And I try to be, I do advocate for them to use their own voice, but I know sometimes, leaders don't necessarily want to hear that from the children's perspective, or they will hear it. But I think sometimes following up with an adult voice and perspective is very helpful. So I love that my leaders always have an open door policy that we can go and talk to them offline about things. I do try to come with information, whether it's, I'm real quick to pull an article or some data. So I will, pull information and just say, hey, can I try it? Even if can I try this in my classroom and see if this works for me? So can I have a few weeks to do this? Then we check back in. And, we discuss, well, okay, this worked. We can try this out, maybe across the grade level, or we can, then expand out to the school. But I think one of the most important things for leaders is that delegated leadership. So, we don't want a dictatorship. We want to feel like we're a part of the process. I know that behind the scenes, Right. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of stuff I don't know about because I'm not a school leader per se, as far as administration is concerned. But, think some things that, that directly affect teachers. So, things with curriculum, if there's, a small pocket of funds where those funds are getting allocated. So, really having decisions about that, and for leaders to understand, because I know, hats off to y'all. I know that that's a job that is hard. And honestly, I don't ever foresee myself being in. I love being in the room amongst children. But I know it's a hard job, and it can be more amplified in hardship when you're trying to do everything yourself.
Yeah.
So, know your building, know the people that are in your building, and know who to delegate things to. So I think a lot of leaders do that as well.
I appreciate you sharing that. And for those of you listening or watching, she's definitely telling the truth about an idea and coming with data and doing some research, because we have had conversations in the past before, with ideas on, I want to do this. Here's what I found out, and then coming back with the data. She does do that, right? And I love how you just shared for leaders to know and hear is, trust your staff is what I'm hearing you say. It's like, everyone in the building is a professional. People are degreed professionals and know. I honestly feel like I've had this conversation with so many people, with various people that we both know, just that the autonomy has been taken away from teachers, so much so that it kills their confidence, right? So when you give them a scripted curriculum and they're following it to the T, they're not really learning the standards like you are doing, right? By being creative and pulling in the hip hop aspect of it so that students can get it. But you're also learning in that way too, because now you're connecting standards. And I know you said twice already, like, you went to fifth grade and you didn't want to, and now you're teaching math and you didn't think you were going to be able to do it. But the reason why you are so good at it, Parker, is because you have the creativity and the courage to loop in things that are going to be most like that your kids are going to resonate with. And so it forces you to learn the standards even more. The different standards, right? That's why you're so good at what you do. And I know this because I've worked with you for years, right? So I appreciate your willingness to just be courageous. I want to tap into, because you also, you talked about being like a leadership role, but you are a teacher leader. And you actually had roles in the schools like a union rep or the union liaison. I forgot what the actual title of it.
Baltimore teachers union rep. Yeah. So
right. The union rep. Right. So anytime there was an issue in a building, you're the person that would go and speak to the leader. You and I have had several conversations right around things that were happening in the building.
Yeah.
So can you share with the audience about, what that is like and how the most effective leader in a situation like that, like what does that leader look like, sound like, right, for you as a building rep, because that's an important role in a building.
Right. So I think that being a building rep, I've served on many things. I've been a building rep. I've been a ULR, which is union leader rep. And I've also been a building teacher mentor. So I think one of the things is just having the understanding that you're not going to know everything, and it's okay. I think that I lead that in my classroom as well. You come in, I'm like, Ms. Parker does not know. You're going to ask me a question, and it's a good possibility. Sometimes I'm not going to know the answer, but I'm going to get back to you. I'm going to go research and educate myself and find out. So, and I've had that experience in no matter what bucket it is, whether I'm the teacher, the union rep, or whatever have you. So I think it's that idea of it's okay to be just being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
Right.
Because I love that helps you, having courageous conversations. Nobody wants to have a conversation where, it doesn't make you feel warm and tingly, but those are necessary conversations to have in order for people to grow, whether you are a student or whether it's my colleague or whether it's my, my boss. So I think that has helped me be successful in my different roles. And really just making sure that I'm listening with intent. intent to understand and not always like with the intent to respond. So listening
Right.
to, if I have a colleague that's presenting me with the issue that they want to bring up to their leader, really maybe really having a conversation with the leader before it goes into, being a grievance file, because a lot of times it's a misunderstanding.
Right.
It might be a small lack of communication, which a lot of times is one of the hindering factors in having a good relationship between leader and their constituents. But I think just being comfortable, being uncomfortable, always being willing to learn and hear different perspectives. I think that's what I've always used to be successful.
Okay. And so thank you for sharing that. For the leader that you're working with, receiving this unfuzzy information, right? Or this unfuzzy perspective about their leadership, right? Because really that's what it is, right? What advice would you give a school leader who's on the receiving end of a conversation with you as a union rep, the building union rep?
So for me, just a lot of things I attribute in my classroom is a trajectory that I can use in any facet. One of the things that I tell my scholars, when I give them feedback, if they're getting feedback on their work, is that and it is for school leaders, it is not a personal attack on you as a human, right?
Right.
I'm not saying you are a horrible human and we hate you and we think that this is not for you. However, we do think that you might need some improvement, or just to take a second look at things, or to regroup or rethink. So just to, not to internalize it as much, even though it is feedback on your leadership. Everybody always has room for improvement. I still get observed year 19, and I can't have this aura of, oh, I've been teaching 19 years. I know what I'm doing, and I don't want you in my room. I know what I'm doing. I always need feedback. Sometimes I go sometimes I have to go get my school leaders to let them know, like, hey, I need y'all to come and give me some feedback in my room. I know that y'all don't bother me as much because, I'm good in the room, but I still need that feedback because I'm still in my year 19. I'm still excited about what I do, and I still need that feedback. So, not taking it so personal, and just know that it's feedback in order for you to be a better leader.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you for sharing that. I'm hoping people who are watching the replay are reflecting on any experiences that they may have had, and thinking about how you can use what Ms. Parker is saying to help you with your reflection, right? To be more introspective in who you are as a leader. So thank you for sharing that. Can you share with us what's one thing that you wish leaders would do better to support classroom teachers?
This is the question I think I struggle with sometimes, because I don't know if it's per se like what leaders in the building can do. One of the things just in my travels, I know when I first started in my teaching career, I had a phenomenal, mentor. Shout out to Tracy Taylor. So, I had somebody that was, wrapped their wings around me, was always checking on me, giving me feedback. She was there when I was upset and crying and feeling like this is not the thing for me. So I think just having a mentor in the building, especially for our newer teachers, to kind of follow them for several years. And it can't be a 1 year, one and done. They need to follow them for a few years because, data shows we're out. A lot of people are out within 3 years.
Yep.
So, and I know that's probably because they're not receiving the support that they need. So, that's my number one thing is, we have a teacher shortage, and less people are going to school for education. So make sure when we get them, we hold tight to them. And I think that
absolutely
mentorship is something that is going to be very helpful. So having someone in the building that they can go to on a consistent basis, that's going to help them, get through it, because it's not for the weak.
Yeah, it really isn't. It really isn't. Yeah, and Bahar McKinney just said that's so important and such great advice. So yes.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, mentorship is really critical because education is in a state of emergency, like you said, right? Both in any role, a school leader, especially teachers, they're dropping quickly because, again, they don't have the type of support that they need. So what would you say to a leader? And the challenge here sometimes is that leaders, because as a school leader, I didn't have the support I needed as a school leader
Right.
at Hartford Heights. I did not have the support. Do you hear me?
Right.
I was figuring out while I was flying the
On the
plane and
and
building it
building
at the same
time.
time. I was
Right.
like, I don't know what I didn't know. Thank God I was able to, create relationships and develop relationships with people and with you all in the building to help me in terms of, what am I doing wrong? Give me feedback. Let me know how I need to change things or adjust things. And so a lot of times there are leaders very often who don't get the support that they need. And so what would you say to a leader who you can tell, because you're an experienced educator, you can look at leaders and be like, oh wow, she's having a hard time, or he's no, he just no, don't do that. Like you're sitting back watching it unfold in a way that is going to be detrimental to the school, but you also know from your experience that this leader is not being supported. So what advice would you give a leader who doesn't have support, but as an experienced teacher that leader needs to find a way to support the teachers? What advice would you give a leader who's like feels like they're drowning and can't give the kind of support that teachers need?
I feel like that's when we need to pull into some of those veteran teachers. Even though I'm not, I've never served in an administrative aspect. I think that like was stated earlier, I'm really good at building relationships with my staff members, not just scholars, but my colleagues. So I think that checking in and having something where you talk with the veteran teachers, maybe have something with a veteran teacher and a new teacher so that you can get those different perspectives, because my perspective is probably going to be a whole lot different than a first or second year teacher, or a newer career teacher. So, trying to support each other and not, I don't go in too much with hierarchies, but everybody needs support. And I have, expertise, just like a first year teacher might have expertise that they can help that, that leader with. And I will say that too. I think leaders definitely need more mentorship, because you're literally the face of the school. You're running the school. And when things go awry, just like a football or any type of professional sports coach, when the team is not doing well, that's the first person that they're looking at. What's going on with the coach? Get rid of them, when they just need more support and guidance. So I think just leaning on the people in your building.
It's so important that you say that, because I know and I believe you and I even had this conversation about when you were a mentor in the building, just about the level of communication between you as a mentor and the leader. Like, you really are not supposed to have conversations with the school leader, because you're developing a trust with the teachers that you're mentoring, right? It's the same thing with school leaders. Like, they're district appointed coaches, but they're appointed by the district.
Right.
Right. It's hard to develop a sense of when you have that, right? Unless you actually set make sure that the parameter, like the expectation, like you have done before, is no, I can't tell you what kind of conversations we're having. My goal is just to support. And I like that you are saying that, leaders need to find a way to get the support that they need to, right? So thank you for sharing that and providing that insight. So can you share an example with us of when leadership positively impacted your teaching or your student outcomes?
I know for me, just having a clarity, because my current school, we are a standards-based grading school. So it took me a hot minute to wrap my head around how to grade things. And I was like, okay, I think that this should get this. And it was like, absolutely not. That is not correct. So I think that sitting down and coming, I think that's why it's so important to give, my school leaders, they give us, a survey every week when we have PD. We have PD on campus, in-house, which I love, because, going off campus for PD sometimes is a nightmare. So I love that it's in-house, it's personal, it's constructed just for us. And that was one thing that I articulated, like, hey, I need a little more guidance with this grading system, and what does it look like? And we actually bought our work one week. Everybody bought a piece of work in, and we took turns just switching work. I'm a 5th grade teacher, and I'm switching work with a 7th grade teacher, a math teacher versus an ELA teacher. Yep. And we sat and graded it, and we had a discussion, and we had these conversations in small group, and then we discussed them out loud. Hey, we're looking at this piece of work. How would we rate it? And, that helped me have so much more clarity with how to grade it, which then made it more clear of the expectations that I have for my scholars, and making sure that I'm being specific when I'm creating my rubrics and letting them know, because, you can't just give them a grade, especially at our school, because they check the rubric. They was like, well, I did this and said I need to put 3 pieces of textual evidence. Here's 1, here's 2, and here's 3. And you're like, you know what? You're right. Let me go back and change that. So I think that just gave me such a big moment of clarity. And just help me be a better educator for my girls, and let them know what they need to do in order to make sure that they're, creating high quality work. And
yeah. Let me tell you something. I'm loving everything you say, because one, I love standards-based grading.
I do too now. Yeah. Ooh, first I was like, what is this? But I can't see it going back any other way. Everybody needs to use it.
Yes, everyone needs to use it. For anyone who's listening to the replay, or look up standards-based grading. It is actually a mindset shift that is required from any educator if you are using standards-based grading. And it is something that the whole school doesn't have to do when you want to get started. Start with the classroom, start with the teacher who wants to do it, right? Like, do a litmus test and see how it works with that. But standards-based grading it really helps your educators understand the standards better, as opposed to understanding a curriculum. Right. And so I love everything that you said, because especially when you said, scholars check it to say, I have 3 pieces of contextual evidence. Okay. Hello.
Right. And it's that conversation, because
students owning their learning and
holding the adults accountable.
That is amazing
for themselves.
Yep. And so the biggest piece especially for school leaders who are listening in, is what I'm hearing Ms. Parker say is that the professional learning that happened and was created specifically for them. It wasn't like a one size fits all professional learning, and the teachers own the learning, right? And so as school leaders, what you're doing is you're setting up the structures so that teachers can do the learning. You're providing the space, the questions, the reflection. You're acting as a facilitator. The same thing that we're telling or asking teachers to do with students, which is to act as a facilitator of learning. It's the same thing, leaders, that you do with your teachers. And Ms. Parker just gave a perfect example of what that looks like in a building. Thank you so much for articulating that for us. So last question. Okay. How do collaboration and communication with leadership affect your daily work?
Oh, it affects us. It affects me from start to finish. It's anything from who might not be at work and how I need to pivot. My school, we have crew at my school, which is like an advisory. So we're crew parents to about 10 to 12 girls throughout their career at our school, from the time they get to our school in the 5th or 6th grade till they leave us in 8th. So, some days somebody might not be there. So we take on, I call them our homeroom partners. So I have my bonus crew babies, as I call them. So knowing, that you have to have them for the day and being prepared, communicating, when there are some pivots and, schedule, and mainly just the collaboration. Now, everybody being on the same page and knowing what the expectation is for ourselves, having high expectations for us as staff members, and also continuing those high expectations for our scholars. So us, norming on what is it going to look like for, in our classroom spaces. So, things like having a reflection area and, making sure we have student scholar workup, just make sure we're communicating so that It doesn't look drastically different in my room versus someone else's room versus, the hall where our administrators' offices are. Making sure that everywhere is a space of learning and that it's a safe space. I think that is really important. So it really does affect my daily work, or just seeing my leaders. My leaders are very rarely in their office, which I love, because
Beautiful.
I have this idea of, if your school leader's always in their office and you're always able to walk past and see them, they're not doing their work right.
You better say it again. I hope y'all listening. Say
Right.
it again.
Yeah, if they're in their office and they always had the door shut, they're not doing their job. You're not being a leader. A leader, when you are a line leader, you're the first person that people see. Right. So, my leaders are always up. You could tell because they always got some fly tennis shoes on. Right. They're not walking around trotting their heels. Not knocking the people that like to be in heels. But my leaders, they wear some nice Nikes and different tennis shoes because they are always up. One of my leaders, she has a walking desk. I think both of them do, actually. So they're always up and about. So I love that they're always, around the school. They know the babies by name. They know who's going to walk out of class and need some redirection. So, it's just important that feeling that everybody's a part of this and we're all in, all in on the success of our babies. And you can see that because they're always around. So.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. For the folks who are listening in or watching the replay, you're getting some really sound advice from a veteran leader here, a teacher leader who, is giving you her perspective on, what is effective leadership for her and what she has experienced. So there are some nuggets of wisdom that she dropped, and I'm hoping that you all can take them and reflect on them and think about how you are using these pieces of advice in your own leadership, or just even starting the conversation with your team to collaborate and create norms together as a school. So, Ms. Parker, thank you so much for your time today. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you and seeing you.
Yes.
I really appreciate it. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our viewers or listeners?
Oh no, just keep believing in these babies. Our I know our system is not perfect, but try something that scares you. That's my motto for the past year and some change. Do something brave, do something that scares me.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
The babies learn something, and we present them with new information, but we can't be stagnant. So we got to always be moving and learning, just like they are. So that's my one
I
piece
love
of
that.
advice.
Yeah, you need to put that on the t-shirt. Do something that scares you.
And I got a t-shirt person at my school for that. Yep.
That was awesome. That was awesome. Thank you so much. Hold on a second. Everybody, I hope that you have enjoyed this session of Lead Beyond Limits with our veteran teacher leader, Ms. Latoya Parker. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we will see you next Monday. Have a fantastic evening, everybody.